this is on the Ramsey website. Now, this is in reaction to people who work for Dave. So he's got a company. Apparently, he's got like employees, like 900-ish employees. So, pretty big company, mid-sized company, I would say. And this is in response to this video, which we'll watch first. Okay. Fired Ramsey employee breaks her silence to News 4. And News 4 is like on their Dave Ramsey coverage. So fingers crossed, everybody. We're playing a video. Hopefully it'll be fine. All right, here we go. This is going to explain everything, and then we're going to read Dave's response.
Now to the interview you will see here on 4 only. The woman suing financial guru Dave Ramsey's company after getting fired for premarital sex is breaking her silence for the first time.
Yeah, she was terminated after she disclosed to the company that she was pregnant and not married. And she granted that interview to our chief investigative reporter, Jeremy Finley. And Jeremy, this story has really caused a lot of reaction with Dave Ramsey fans as well as his critics.
That's absolutely true, because not only is he widely known for his tough talk on finances, but also for insisting that employees follow his biblical principles. Well, tonight, the woman who's suing, saying his company violated federal law, says there's so much Dave Ramsey listeners don't know. I obviously asked for an interview and you said no. What changed your mind?
The last news story that you reported on hit me in a way that it hadn't hit me before.
That story featured audio of Dave Ramsey speaking to staff, mocking employees who engage in premarital sex.
I don't agree with the righteous living core value. Well, why did you come, stupid?
He's gonna go on stage in front of 900 of my team members and call me stupid. That's grossly inappropriate.
The former administrative assistant for Ramsey.
He thinks a lot of people are stupid and calls them stupid pretty openly. So, as much as I do have sympathy for her, I feel like it's like, step in line. Everyone else is stupid too, according to him. She's not the first and she won't be the last that he'll call stupid publicly.
Ramsey's technology leaders says she remembers the day a male colleague received a warning from their superior.
One of the technology leaders did specifically say, you can't have sex with your girlfriend and work here.
Ramsey says in the audio, if you don't agree with his biblical principles, you have no place in his company.
If you don't like that, this is your cue. Don't let the door hit you in the ass.
But O'Connor says it was never stipulated that premarital sex was cause for termination.
Were you afraid when you found out that you were pregnant that you were going to lose your job?
Yeah, I was terrified.
She states in her federal lawsuit that as soon as she emailed HR to alert them to her pregnancy, this is how a committee member responded to her email.
It's classless.
That's what his response was.
Classless. It broke me. It broke my soul.
She says the company almost immediately terminated her insurance.
It's like leaving the cult.
You just described it as a cult.
I'm not a cult expert. I would actually be very interested in somebody who is more of an expert on cults or high control groups to get their opinion.
O'Connor is now suing, saying federal law forbids discrimination based on pregnancy, knowing just who she's up against.
I knew that I was basically going to be taking on these bullies. It's still terrifying. It's terrifying right now.
All right, O'Connor says she was offered a non-disclosure agreement and a financial payout, but she declined both. And she has a lot more to say. News 4 Investigates has been speaking with other sources about work.
And so he's just talking about the other stories. So, okay, so obviously there's is that legal, whatever, there's a lot of questions. And from what I can find, Savvy in her video where she talks about this topic and this specific case, she kind of went through some of the legal stuff. And basically what it said is you can't discriminate on race, sex, or disability. So technically, yeah, it's sort of a gray area, but I think, you could probably, and I am no expert, obviously. I'm no legal, expert or lawyer or anything. But if it was me trying to think, they filed a lawsuit. I don't know where the lawsuit is. It seems like it's just being pushed down the road, especially during COVID stuff. It gets usually pushed further down. You could, a woman, is the only sex that could be proven, to be, basically a man would have to admit or be caught on camera to be having sexual relations before marriage. A woman who gets pregnant can't help that. So I don't know if that would be a sexist thing or be something that could, go into this. Again, he doesn't run a nonprofit. He doesn't run a church. So yeah, he sort of is up for scrutiny and having fair working conditions for his employees and fair hiring practices. But as Dave would probably not disagree with, he's pretty double down Dave. He's another double down Dave that we've seen on this show. This is on the website from January 7th, 2022. Employees have to follow the moral code. Now, again, this is on the website, Office Moral Code, okay? And then someone says, Trent on Twitter wants to know if he's legally allowed to fire an employee for having an extramarital affair outside of the office. Okay, so that's not the same thing, but sort of the same idea of, I don't agree with your moral character. Can I fire you? And Dave says yes. Okay, the answer, sure, absolutely. We have a moral code of conduct at our office. I fire people if they have extramarital affairs. The hilarious thing is I put that on Twitter and people go, won't you get sued for that? No, you're allowed to discriminate against infidelity. Is that true? I've got a right to tell my employees whatever I want to tell them. They freaking work for me. My God. I think if Rachel Hollis had not been canceled when she did, this is something that she would start doing. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, anyways. This is an employment at will state, which means if I decide I don't like people with green eyes, I don't have to hire you. I don't have to keep you anymore. It seems a little past the line of comfortable. There are no eye color discrimination laws. Sorry. Now, I would never do that. I'm not that arbitrary and I'm not that mean or unkind. But listen, if your spouse can't trust you, what makes you think I can trust you? I'm forgiving. I forgive the person. You can forgive a dog that bites you, but don't stick your hand out again, stupid. Jesus. Oh, okay, sorry. You're going to get bit again. There's a difference between forgiveness and reconciliation. Some of my brothers and sisters in Christ aren't theologically deep enough to grasp that. Let me help you with that. There's a difference between forgiveness and reconciliation. Every time, and there's only a handful of times in 20 years, I've had to let someone go because they couldn't seem to remember where their own bedroom was. I've done that. We've remained friends with the person. Personally, I'm good. I forgave them. I'm good with that. But they're not going to work here because I have to be able to trust people who work here. They could hypothetically regain my trust over time, but there's so many other places they can work and so many other people I can hire. So why go through that? This is not a church and not a cult. Okay. You can go to heaven and not work here. This is not a heaven ruling. It's a you just don't get to work here ruling. And yeah, you can do that and not get sued because it does affect your performance. How? Sexual performance? What? How? Whether I can trust you or not is an element of whether you get to work here. It's kind of like stealing. How? So this is very on brand, I will say, for Dave. Dave is very sensitive. And I'm not saying sensitivity is wrong. I just think he's a little more sensitive than the average person, genderless person. He's a little more sensitive. And if you don't like something that he has said or something he has done, that might be the wrath that you are going to come under. Okay, so there's definitely that element where you have to stick to the code of ethics that he has set forth. You know, he's already said he's been sued hundreds of times for loan stuff. He's being sued for other things. There's a second element. This is another news story by News 4. And this one is about a woman who was allegedly fired because her husband went to a Christmas party at Dave Ramsey's, or for Dave Ramsey's company. And it was during COVID when things were more crazy and there was like no masks in sight, and the guy apparently made some sort of statement as to like, this is not safe or this is not good or something like that. I don't know what the actual statement was, but then apparently she was fired because her husband, who doesn't work there or never worked there, was there for the Christmas party, made that comment to somebody, and it got back to Dave, and apparently he fired her. So here's that story on the news.
Recently, it's come to light that I've done some things personally that are...
Oh, okay, yeah. Let me also say this part. So the hypocrisy given in the thumbnail. So that woman that just was in the last video, allegedly, she was let go because she, fell pregnant, as they say, or she got pregnant. She wasn't married. So therefore, she's the worst person in the world. She can't be trusted. She's a dog, whatever, according to Dave. So people are saying it's hypocritical because Chris Hogan, who is this guy that's on the screen. Now, I don't know a whole lot about him. The only time I've ever heard about him was actually through Rachel Hollis, who was supposed to have him speak at the Rise conference, the last one that was in Austin last year. And he was on the schedule the day of, because I got the agenda because I was attending virtually, and he was on the schedule and never showed up. And that was when this was all happening. All this stuff was brewing. So apparently, and I forget where I heard it, and I wish I had access to where I was watching it, but allegedly, Chris Hogan has been unfaithful to his marriage multiple times, according to something. And he even says, he alludes that he had done something wrong. He didn't follow the moral code. But somewhere somebody has accused him of being unfaithful in his marriage multiple times. And apparently, according to this person, they said that Dave put him on like a probation where he was allowed to still work at the company, of course. But he had to, go to counseling through the church. He had to have like someone monitor him. His wife had to be like, she wasn't allowed to go to anything because of the infidelity, because, Dave apparently, allegedly, this is all from like an account that I watched, a video, and we can watch that, where she wasn't allowed around anymore because they didn't want this information to get out. And then over a long period of time, finally he got let go. And some were speculating because, one, he's a man, and two, he was like a high producing employee. Like, he had airtime, and he was someone who was bringing in a lot of money to the company, so they like let it slide, allegedly. Okay, I'm seeing your comments. Cancer in the middle of all this. Oh wait, I'm still live, right? I'm still here, right? Don't make me put that sad music back on, please. Okay, so here is the Dave Ramsey stuff. The Chris Hogan stuff.
It's come to light that I've done some things personally that are not in line with Ramsey Solutions.
Turmoil inside the company of financial guru Dave Ramsey, one of his top personalities, announces he's stepping away for personal failures following blistering claims in a federal lawsuit. Let's go to our chief investigative reporter, Jeremy Finley, who has been uncovering insider complaints about the company. And Jeremy, what's led up to this announcement?
Well, Marius, fans of Dave Ramsey knows him for two reasons. One, for how he helps people get out of financial debt. For two, for being a Christian corporation. But at the same time, a federal lawsuit is now claiming that the company is firing employees for reasons that have nothing to do with their work.
I need to let you all in on some things that have been going on in my personal life.
That's Chris Hogan, known by Dave.
I just gotta say, this video is privated now, this like original video where Chris Hogan's like apologizing in the most insincere way I've ever seen anyone apologize for misgivings in their situation. And he needs to tell you that he has made mistakes. It's like so hard to watch because it's so forced. You can tell he does a lot of television where he delivers lines very securely. So yeah, anyways, he does have a nice voice though. It's very crispy.
Ramsey fans as one of the company's top personalities, America's leading voice on retirement. But today, he's no longer with the company.
Recently, it's come to light that I've done some things personally that are not in line with Ramsey Solutions. And as a result, I'm no longer a team member at Ramsey.
While Hogan doesn't elaborate what he did, just 2 days ago, a former Ramsey employee requested Hogan's personnel records as part of her federal lawsuit. She's suing, saying Ramsey violated FMLA when she was fired for becoming pregnant out of wedlock. The lawsuit claims Ramsey also disciplined 8 employees for having premarital sex. News 4 Investigates has repeatedly asked Dave Ramsey for an interview, but the company's only reaction so far was to block me on Twitter. That came after News 4 Investigates
So petty.
reported that this...
So petty. Petty behavior. You block the reporter on Twitter. Hey, can I have a comment? Blocked. I don't comment back on news stories that are true.
Former employee says she was fired when her husband criticized the company's Christmas party, which featured huge crowds and few masks. That employee alleges the company punishes people for reasons not related to job performance.
I think that in some situations they do cross a line that an employer shouldn't cross.
The drama surrounding Hogan addressed as painful personal events by his ex-wife in a blog post on her website last month.
Oh yeah, okay. We'll have to look at this.
Also writing, I speak publicly at great risk that Ramsey Solutions could very well take steps to terminate my ex-husband and thus profoundly impact the financial well-being of my family and my medically fragile son's health insurance, which is maintained through Ramsey Solutions and which he desperately needs. In a motion filed last month in this federal lawsuit, Ramsey's attorneys wrote that Ramsey is a promoter of, quote, biblically based educational resources that prohibits employees from engaging in premarital sex. The woman suing was terminated for violating.
Okay. So I think basically that seems to be like the reason why this came out, because the lawsuit about the pregnancy sparked the hypocrisy of, look at this guy participating in premarital sex. That's what you're saying that I was fired for. But in reality, it seems like you're firing me because I'm pregnant. Why don't I get a probation period where I can like learn from my mistakes and like repent my sins or whatever? So let's go to her blog. So that was interesting. I forgot about that part. We love a blogging queen in 2022. Okay, Melissa Hogan. Melissa Hogan blog. Okay. But yeah, isn't that hypocritical? Oh. Melissa, we need you. Okay, her statement. Melissa, spread the tea. Spill it, girl. Let me zoom in because I am blind. Okay. Today, Religion News Service released an article, quote, is Dave Ramsey's empire the best place to work in America? Say no and you're out. That included comments from a statement I submitted to them in response to their request for comment. Below is my entire statement. I'm incredibly grateful for the support of dear friends and family as I walked through these difficult events prior and since. Okay, so she's not doing... Let's just read it. To respect the privacy of my children and my extended family, at this time, I will not comment on the painful personal events surrounding my 21-year marriage to Chris Hogan, a personality employed by Ramsey Solutions, or our 2019 divorce. I will, however, comment on my personal interactions with Ramsey Solutions and also correct untruths that were communicated by its leadership. Okay. Oh, it's long. It's not that long. Okay, I can read it. All right. In 2005, I won a silent auction item for my then husband, Chris Hogan, to sit in on Dave Ramsey's radio show. Oh, damn. Wow. That's how it started? How interesting. Okay. Okay. I was not familiar with Dave Ramsey at the time, but because my husband and I each had radio shows in college, I thought it would be a fun gift. As a result of that introduction, my understanding was that my husband was invited to apply for a job there. As part of the interview process together, we prepared a business plan for a new division focused on wealth management. I was also requested to and did attend at least one dinner and spousal interview. Oh yeah, that's another thing. So if you are wanting a job at Dave Ramsey's company, apparently you have to be married if you want to have sex. Obviously, like, duh. Every job has that clause, right? No, not really. But you have to, agree that if you are, not married, you're not going to bang anybody. And if you are going to bang somebody, they must be legally tied to you, and they apparently are going to be interviewed as well. I was prepared to submit our personal family budget, my understanding being that it was required as part of the hiring process. That's crazy. I'm sorry. That's so crazy. After my husband was offered a job with Ramsey Solutions for over 13 years, I was then part of the Ramsey Solutions family, participating in company-wide family and holiday events, special events for the personalities and their families, and live events at which my husband was a speaker. I also socialized and attended church with a number of other employee families. On several occasions, I was requested by Ramsey Solutions to provide videos of encouragement for my spouse, and I attended private events at the Ramsey family homes in Franklin, Tennessee, and on Timms Ford Lake. In 2016, I supported my husband in the launch of his first book, including but not limited to, by attending particular book tour events arranged by Ramsey Solutions. I witnessed generosity to employees and met some of my closest friends and families of Ramsey Solution employees. I acknowledge the help they provide to many families struggling out of debt, and the hard work and dedication of hundreds of employees there. They are also supported us in many ways as we struggled with our youngest son's diagnosis with Hunter syndrome. Unfortunately, however, the actions of Ramsey Solutions leadership surrounding challenges in my marriage to Chris Hogan were inconsistent with the values they communicate publicly. I found their approach and many actions to be controlling, manipulative, and deceptive. In light of more recent actions by Ramsey Solutions made public in court filings and news articles, I also find their actions to be hypocritical. Yeah. This would matter little to me if they were a company that didn't profess to be Christ-centered. However, as they purport to be led by biblical values and wield a large influence in my and my children's own community of Middle Tennessee, these matters are significant and troubling to me. For example, after learning of specific painful issues in our marriage, Ramsey Solutions leadership and Dave Ramsey specifically prepared a, quote, restoration plan for our marriage. Okay, so this is the thing that they put in place of being fired. Like the other woman was like, bye, see ya, good luck, insurance is gone, allegedly. And this is what the Chris Hogan upper echelon employee gets, allegedly. Restoration plan for our marriage, a process to which I initially agreed. After that process began, it was communicated that they intended for our marriage counselor, personal therapists, and our church elders to report to the leadership of Ramsey Solutions. Can you imagine your boss being like, okay, I need your therapist's notes, I need your clergy notes, I need everything about your personal life, what you do in the bedroom, who you're seeing, what bed you're in, like I need all the deets, send it to me, I am your boss. No thanks. Thanks, Bob. Okay. After that process began, it was communicated that they intended for our marriage counsel. Okay. For example, it was dictated that members of the board of Ramsey Solutions would have full access to updates from our counselors involved in real time. In essence, as part of that process, we were to waive confidentiality with our therapists in order to have them report to Ramsey Solutions leaders. I now recognize that to be unhealthy, controlling, spiritually manipulative, and deeply wounding. Yeah, this is not a church. This is not church. This is not nonprofit. This is, they say they have Christian values at the company, but this is a fully not public. I don't think it's a public company. I think it's a private company, but it's not affiliated with any church officially, I believe. Okay, during a process that was supposed to help restore our marriage, Ramsey Solutions board members attempted to manipulate and control me through emails and phone calls. They characterized their plan as aligning with the Holy Spirit and suggested that things would not end well if I made choices to support healing in my marriage and family that either were not directed by them or decisions that they did not approve. One board member stated on a phone call, quote, "We have to have oversight over the steps we were taking. They also attempted to dictate how I was feeling while also suggesting that I distance myself from other support." Okay, cult-like, in my opinion. At one point, they even uninvited me from my husband's second book tour. Okay, that's the part, because like she was not happy with how things were going. I thought that's what the guy said in the other video. Finally, they focused on my husband's role at Ramsey Solutions as a, quote, calling on his life in a ministry and a mission, not a normal employer-employee situation. They also emphasized that their compensation was funding our family. I responded, quote, "The calling on his life is to be a servant of the Lord in whatever capacity, and the calling on his life is to be a God-honoring husband that reflects the relationship of Christ and the church. The calling on his life is to be seeking the Lord and to be serving his children and to be serving his neighbors. This career specifically isn't the calling on his life." Thanks, Micah. When I sought to maintain healthy boundaries against the control from Ramsey Solutions leadership, they shifted to suggesting that I was the problem, that I lacked, quote, "hope for my marriage's future," and did not trust them. Several months later, at a company-wide meeting in May 2019, Dave Ramsey personally discussed my marriage from the stage and falsely described specific actions of mine. He told the audience that I had come to Ramsey Solutions and demanded very angrily to see him. The truth is that on December 20th, 2018, I came to Ramsey Solutions office for what I believed was a previously arranged meeting about issues in my marriage that I thought were going to be made public. I arrived at the reception desk of Ramsey Solutions and quietly requested to see Dave Ramsey. I then sat down in a chair and waited for approximately 20 minutes while texting a friend. Many employees, including members of Ramsey Solutions leadership, saw me quietly waiting in the lobby. Instead of speaking with Dave, I was surprised to be greeted by Dave and two other male board members in a conference room who then proceeded to accuse me of making false accusations. The very fact that I was alone in this confrontation with three men who largely had the power over our family's income and who were making such accusations against me was extremely intimidating and caused me a great deal of anxiety. During his remarks at the May 2019 staff meeting, Dave Ramsey also publicly mischaracterized my actions during the ensuing process as involving anger, hyperbole, and drama. The fact that I repeatedly expressed to them my support and concern for my husband, my marriage, our testimony as believers, and the truth. Oh boy, okay, I'm almost done. It's almost done. Okay. The trauma I experienced from my interactions with Ramsey Solutions leadership was significant given their public image and their conflicting and controlling communications with me. Reported experiences from other former employees and spouses of Ramsey Solutions suggest to me that how they treated me was not a unique or isolated occurrence. Yeah, probably not. Were I still married to an employee at Ramsey Solutions, I would harbor a well-founded fear that my spouse would be fired for me sharing this statement despite its truth and the evidence supporting it. My statement reflects actions they have been aware of for approximately 2 years, as well as my own feelings about such. I speak publicly at great risk that Ramsey Solutions could very well take steps to terminate my ex-husband and thus profoundly impact the financial well-being of my family and my medically fragile son's health insurance, which is maintained through Ramsey Solutions and which he desperately needs. Well, he was let go at some point. However, I am compelled by faith in Jesus Christ to speak the truth and not fear the actions of men. I want God to be glorified in this, which is the same statement I made to Dave Ramsey in December 2018 when he directly asked me if I wanted my husband to be fired or his book tour canceled. God's glory is still my intention in this statement. God has rescued, comforted, and sustained me throughout this process. As Ephesians, oh my God, I'm so sorry, suggests, God expects harmful actions to be brought out of the darkness into the light. Okay, she was under a gag order much of 2019, publicly reported actions that are inconsistent with Ramsey Solutions, took my situation. At that time, I was allowed to reflect, pray, and seek the Lord's guidance. Okay, so she doesn't mean any malice and whatever. Okay, wowzers, that's crazy.